The Panthers took a loss, but that didn't stop Xavier Legette from winning Friday Night SmackDown. And it's the preseason. We all have bigger squirrels to fry. And I thought the first team offense looked pretty good. They came out very slow. That first drive was not good for Bryce Young and the offense. And I got disappointed. I wanted a hot start. And I'm sitting there watching the game. And then lightning strikes. Bryce Young throws a beautiful ball down the sideline to T-Mac, who reels it in for a gain of 30 yards. Tight coverage. Exactly what you wanted to see from the rookie wide receiver. And I thought in T-Mac's first preseason game, it was a lot of what we've been told from Canales, what we've seen reported, where there was some errors and room for growth for the young wide receiver, but there also were some flashes. He had 2 catches, and then that drop touchdown on the second drive. Bryce Young and T-Mac, the timing was off. Some might say T-Mac dropped it, but really he turned his head and the ball was in his face. So it seemed like an error of timing, but still, I thought the offense looked pretty good. Young 4 for 6, 58 yards, and a touchdown on the day. That second drive, 9 plays and 73 yards. And Young, a lot of what you saw last year, I think the big thing with Young's performance down the stretch in 2024 was the off-platform throws, scrambling. He did it against the Eagles. He did it multiple times. That's how they finished the season so strong. Young using his feet, moving well in the pocket, but also getting outside the pocket when it's the right time to do that, and finding receivers downfield. He flashed. Again, the offense didn't start well. I would have liked to see a lot more from the offensive line. You were without Damian Lewis, but Brady Christensen got beat once, and then the sack on the first drive of the game, left guard Ja'Tyre Carter, so he was starting in place of Damian Lewis, who's out with a shoulder strain, taking it day by day, said Canales after the game in the press conference. But Bryce Young got sacked. It was one of the few first-teamers, I forgot his first name, but Wright on the Browns, that got by Ja'Tyre Carter. Still, the strength of this team's the offensive line. Do your job. The Browns had their 2s and 3s out there. You should be dominating. And I thought you should have gotten more from the offense to start the game. Yes, they had the 73-yard drive on the second drive, but you would have liked to see more. And I think Canales gets that. He did say in his press conference, the first thing he led with was, yeah, we lost 30-7. Like, the first team offense is getting 3 drives next week, and Canales does not like losing, obviously. The last thing he wants is a 30-7 blowout loss against Cleveland, of all teams. And you know this is going to get blown up in the headlines with Shedeur Sanders shining, and we're going to talk about him. Canales wants to see more, though. And next week, you will see the starters, evidently, for 3 drives. This was, they say, lead with the horse. Lead with the horse, and that draws the carriage. Well, the Panthers were without their receiver who loves horses, Xavier Legette. He was ejected on the second drive. And I've warned Legette of this. I said there's urgency here. There is urgency for the second-year wide receiver. If you're Legette, the last thing you can do is get ejected in this game, and then Jalen Coker comes in and catches a touchdown within seconds of being put into the game. It could not have gone worse for Legette. Coker is clawing and fighting to climb up the depth chart and displace Legette. And now fans are slowly starting to see that. I was talking about this weeks ago. People were pushing back. Tone, You're being too hard on the second-year wide receiver. Why don't you have faith in Legette? Some people were on my side, but most people were not. And now you see what happens. And I love the persona. I love the cowboy hat. I love boots on the ground. I love Guy Fieri interviews talking about raccoon recipes. I love all of it. I want the guy to be successful, genuinely. But getting in a fight and getting ejected after you had a disappointing rookie season, the first thing you're going to do in the spotlight is that. Not a good look. And I'm not judgmental of Legette. I don't think many people are, but that's not how I want to come across. Rayshawn Jenkins is at fault here. The guy was mouthing off to him, holding his face mask. It's clear. Legette didn't provoke this situation. He just shouldn't have responded like a UFC fighter. That was the issue. The issue is not Legette talking smack or being at fault. Rayshawn Jenkins had him by the face mask, and that led to Legette throwing 3 punches. You've probably seen it, body shots. Get those lungs weakened. And then Jenkins rips his helmet off, and they both get disqualified. And all I'm going to say is, if you're Xavier Legette, this is crunch time for you. I know it's a preseason game, but Jalen Coker is as good a wide receiver as Legette at this point, if not better. I think Coker has shown more on tape. I think the numbers are better. 43 yards per game last year. Legette had 31. So the numbers paint a better story for Jalen Coker. I think Jalen Coker has that it factor. I think this guy has been held down. Holy Cross football. Like, my granddad went to Holy Cross, and that's back when they had Bob Cousy and one of the best point guards of all time in Boston. You know the deal. Holy Cross is not a football school. Come on. Holy Cross. You go to a Holy Cross football game, there's like 10 people eating hot dogs in the stands. Jalen Coker is hungry for a spot on this depth chart, and that is what makes the Xavier Legette ejection so surreal. What Legette has on his side is the current state of affairs. Legette is the guy. He was the first round pick last year. I don't think Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, or especially Brant Tillis, are going to force him to be the wide receiver too. But at least, going into the season, he's the guy that's grandfathered in. If Legette starts doing things like this and gives Canales a reason to put him on the bench, any reason, whether it's a drop or a personal foul or whatever it is, it's just not the right move for a wide receiver who really is playing for his job. Let's be honest about it. And I'm glad everyone is waking up to that, because it was before the fight with Rayshawn Jenkins. It was long before Xavier Legette got disqualified tonight that many of us were talking about Coker being the wide receiver 2 on this team. And Coker, oh my gosh, seriously, talk about nuts. That guy comes off the bench. Hey, Jalen, put your helmet on, get in. First thing he does is a touchdown. And then I think it was the drive after the next drive. Coker catches like one arm. So he's getting held by the defender. There's like 5 penalties on the play. And Dalton throws a missile down the field, middle of the field. Coker, it's a PI. They didn't call the PI. They called an offsides and I believe a face mask on the offense. Either way, it probably was a PI. He was at least getting held. His arm's behind him. He's bringing in the ball, hauling it in, highlight reel. This guy was a walking highlight reel. Jalen Coker doesn't have problems with the hands, and he's the other year 2 wide receiver around here. He's a gamer, wrote Mike K on X of Jalen Coker. And Josh Neiman was held for the face mask on the play that got held back, where Coker did have the highlight reel catch. We're going to go to break real quick. We have more on Shedeur Sanders. We're going to talk about the defense specifically. I thought this player really shined, and we're going to talk about what I thought was a struggling pass rush. I'm going to lead with that. There's a lot of people saying it looked good. I think they're delusional. We're going to talk about all that. Stay tuned. This is The Tone. Thank you for tuning in. And like Xavier Legette, we're packing a punch with 2 more segments of Panthers content that will have you on the prowl. This is The Tone. This is The Tone, leading with the pass rush. I don't think there was much of one, to be honest. You didn't really pressure Shedeur Sanders until Damani Richardson came on a safety blitz in the third quarter. And I know Nick Scorton gets credit for the sack when Shedeur ran like 100 miles, did a bunch of spin moves, and then ran out of bounds for a 2-yard loss. We'll give you credit, I guess, but I don't think the pass rush by any means was there. Yes, Dave Canales gave Princely Umanmielen credit after the game, saying that the rookie edge rusher did well, setting the edge, had some plays against the run. I'll take his word for it. But the pass rush was absent, and Shedeur Sanders looked like Tom Brady at points last night. Seriously. How long are you going to let that guy sit in the pocket? And he gets credit, I think, in Cleveland. They're waking up tomorrow talking about Shedeur being the QB1. I watched the NFL Network broadcast, which I got the Cleveland local broadcast during the game. I had to listen to a 5-minute Joe Flacco monologue about family dinner. I love Joe Flacco. I think he's one of the most underrated playoff quarterbacks ever. I do not care about his family dinners. I'm sorry, I do not care. But they talked a lot about the Cleveland headlines in the morning. They're waking up thinking they have a quarterback 1 in Shedeur Sanders. And I know the Panthers only played their starters a couple drives on defense and offense as well. They didn't have Jaycee Horn. They didn't have Derek Brown. Those are your 2 best players on that side of the ball. I was expecting more. Especially against a weakened Browns offensive line. None of their starters are out there. And Scorton gets credit for the sack, sure, but I would have thought that Princely Umanmielen, DJ Wanham, Nick Scorton, even a guy like Cam Jackson who had the play during practice this past week, would have made big plays against this second-tier Browns offensive line. And still, Sanders shines like Sally sold her seashells. Sanders is the one shining in Cleveland and really was the story of the entire game. And my mind goes back to this headline by Joe Person. This was part of his article on August 4th. Don't crown Princely just yet, and don't bury Icky, the wit. Love that. But Pearson brings up such a good point here, and I'm gonna read it to you. Umanmielen got by Ekwonu on an inside move the following day, causing fans on social media, these are my words, to be in an uproar. And Umanmielen defended Ekwonu in that video he posted. But a lot of this hype around Princely Umanmielen is coming from days of practice where they're wearing shorts and helmets. And when they're wearing full pads, Ekwonu has held his own against the rookie pass rusher. And I think Umanmielen has great bends. I have faith in Nick Scorton. It's one game. I get it. But again, you took T-Mac at 8th overall. Jalen Walker looks pretty good in Atlanta. If I'm Evero, I'm not happy with that decision. You needed a pass rusher. You have not had one over the past 2 seasons. You have not had a pass rusher. Some people want to count Brian Burns. I count Brian Burns in 2023 as a pretty good pass rusher. Some people will get upset at that. You brought Umanmielen and Scorton here to rush the quarterback. So I would have expected that they did it a little more and made Sanders a little bit more uncomfortable. I thought the secondary played well, though. Corey Thornton, here are my notes. Here are my notes. Drive 1 and drive 2. Corey Thornton on with the first team defense. And yes, it's without DB and without Jaycee Horn. Corey Thornton is starting. So if you look at the depth chart that the Panthers posted and circulating around social media, Thornton is like, you know when you go to a basketball game and you're like all the way up at the rafters and like you're like looking down over the roof of the building, you like can't even see? That is how far back Corey Thornton was on the Panthers depth chart. This guy's like way down there. Like he might be in another dimension on the Panthers depth chart. He was on with the first team defense. And Canales, I don't have the quote, but was talking about guys who are gamers. And then there's guys who are practice players. Guys who are good in practice, can't play in the game. Well, Corey Thornton, I don't know how the practice has been. We've heard he's been holding his own against T-Mac. But gosh, he was a gamer, and he was shutting down your wide receiver 1 from a season ago. Deontay Johnson. There was one play on the second drive of the game. The Browns throw the ball down the field to Johnson. Thornton locking him down in coverage. Some might have said it was a PI. Whatever. It was a bad throw. I don't even think it was a PI. Airtight coverage from Corey Thornton. He had another play where I believe he broke up the pass. I don't know if he got a hand on the ball, but he definitely broke up the pass, holding his own against Deontay Johnson, who I don't think at this point in his career is even close to as talented as he was when he came to Carolina from Pittsburgh. But you can't knock that competition. We're seeing the product. We're seeing it. We're not talking to a used car salesman. They're not talking about something that doesn't exist. We know that Corey Thornton actually possesses talent after tonight. And to be honest, I think it's a little bit more than preseason phenomena. I think Corey Thornton has a little bit of an edge, and I think he could be a pretty good player for this team. He had some big hits on the tight ends, too. Very physical. The WWE takedown on the Cleveland Browns end around. It didn't end around, and he also had some big hits on the tight ends. I thought he was physical. I'm surprised. Someone posted it on X. I'm sorry, I can't give credit. But they were like, how did this guy fall? And the Cowboys were linked to him before the draft. I'm surprised a corner with his skill set fell in the draft. Like, normally if a corner can tackle, that's such a rarity in today's NFL. Teams usually place a premium on that, especially football gritty coaches. But he also looks good in coverage. I think Corey Thornton might have been the star of the night. Because now you finally know he is a gamer. He's a gamer. A couple more storylines I want to hit on. Now, this one is sort of like the day after taco night. It comes when it's unexpected and it just starts flowing out. Here's Dave Canales talking about Bryce Young's benching. So this is, we're a year removed from this almost. Almost a year later, Dave Canales is talking to the NFL Network about the decision to bench Bryce Young and what has happened because of it. So here is Coach Dave.
I would say the biggest thing is that he continued to lead throughout that process. I think that he earned a lot of respect from his teammates, from me, that regardless of the situation, he didn't agree with me on the decision not to play him. But he worked and he kept leading, and he was showing me this is my team.
I find that interesting. I don't think Canales has verbally admitted that Bryce Young did not agree. We kind of knew that. But talking about the hardship of benching the quarterback, Bryce Young did not want to be benched. He thought it was a bad decision for Dave Canales to bench him. And now Canales is saying that because of that hardship, because of that rock in the road of their relationship, there's been immense growth. And the reason I'm even bringing this up is because I think it's visible on the practice field. There was a quote the other day, we talked about it in the T-Mac video, where Dave Canales is talking about some of the timing issues that Bryce Young has had with T-Mac because T-Mac's been so talented. Placing the ball, for example, has been an issue because it's like T-Mac is used to just dominating guys. You just kind of throw it up and he catches it. But because the coverage has been so tight and T-Mac's not used to it, now Bryce Young is throwing the ball in the right location, in the right spot, but he's throwing the receiver open. And T-Mac's sort of like, what the heck? I've never had to do this. A quarterback's never done this for me. And Canales in the clip was talking about how him and Bryce Young are looking at T-Mac going, yeah, like one day he's going to be able to get it. But we're on the same page. Coach and quarterback on the same page. It's clear. It's clear. And I think Canales is finally just realizing that you can't put lipstick on a pig. He's finally realizing that. Like, the benching happened. It was crappy and terrible. We all thought the world was going to end. We thought the Panthers were going to even trade Bryce Young at one point. It was a freaking disaster. Like, a public relations disaster. Dave Canales probably thought he could get fired because he's like, now I have Andy Dalton or Jack Plummer going out there, and the team sucks, and there's no way we're going to get 5 wins. But the quarterback came back. He went, I believe, 4-6 in his last 10. He had 10 touchdowns and 0 turnovers in his last 3 games. He saved the coach's job. Because I think if they had 1 or 2 wins, you think Canales would have his job this year? I kind of find that tough to believe. Maybe that's speculation. But you catch my drift. There's history now. There's history. He's not just a quarterback that he inherited. And not enough weight is put on that. Most coaches these days choose their quarterback. Like Sean McVay chose Matt Stafford. Even Kellen Moore in New Orleans, he chose Tyler Shuck. I can't even make a joke because it makes me laugh. He actually chose Tyler Shuck, but still it shows the point, which is the quarterback and the coach are symbiotic, and usually the coach is selecting the quarterback. Canales never had that opportunity. He inherited Young. I thought it was clear as day early last season that they didn't even really like Young. He probably didn't think he could play, but he took the head coaching job because he wasn't getting any offers anywhere else. But now it's all gone full circle. And not only do I think Canales feels that his wagon is hitched to Bryce Young, I also feel that Canales does have faith and does believe. I think he buys in to Bryce Young. Not just the leadership that he talks about there. I think that's all whatever. Who cares? Not that it's not important, but like, let's talk about what really matters, which is the skill and the play on the field. And I think Canales does have faith that Bryce Young can play. He can actually play quarterback. This is the final story of the day. The final story. And we save the best for last. Special teams. Can they catch a punt? Can they catch a freaking punt? Blackshear, I believe it was the first punt of the game, bobbled it, almost fumbled. And then Trevor Etienne, Nick Scott body slams him. He drops the ball. Shedeur Sanders gets the ball inside the 10, dumps it inside for an easy Browns touchdown. Special teams. Just don't mess it up. And that's why I think Hunter Renfrow makes this team. Because I think even when he had severe health issues, battling ulcerative colitis in Vegas, he still was a good special teamer. Like, he wasn't a good route runner, wasn't good on offense, but was still making plays on special teams. I think Jaycee Horn is going to make the roster. We didn't see much of him. I think we didn't see any Jaycee Horn as a punt returner last night, which is disheartening to me. I thought that's something he could do, but I think he'll make the team because it looks like he's taking over the Devin Tompkins role. He even did a little play action type thing, option route. Hunter Renfrow, I think, needs to be the punt returner. Blackshear, I don't think he stays here. And Trevor Etienne, oh my gosh, you should have saw the SEC crap talk on X. I'm not saying Trevor Etienne's not going to be a good player, but let's just say Florida fans were taking very kindly to his woes on the field. He did have one nice catch, I believe, but Florida fans found it very entertaining when the former Georgia Bulldog fumbled the punt. And they got to figure that out because there's no tolerance for that. There's nothing worse than watching the special teams blow it. Like that is the worst football you could watch. I would rather the quarterback throw interceptions, they fumble, like Mark Sanchez butt fumbles. I'd rather watch 3 of those than like a muffed punt. It's just the worst. Like you go to the fridge, you get a cookie or something, and you sit back down on the couch, and then they muff the punt. Like, usually it happens when you're still in the kitchen, and you're just like, dude, are you effing serious right now? I was about to watch the offense, and then he muffed the freaking punt. It is so annoying. And we're going to end on that. This is The Tone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Special teams. What's that guy's sketch say? He's like, special teams, special plays, brother. This is The Tone.